everybody. So, I already sat down and recorded this entire video. You know, it's NFL predictions. But when I watched back the footage, I realized I had a giant white head right here. You can see there's a little bit of a spot there. And, that was mortifying. And I was like, I'm not leaving that in the video because all the comments are going to be about that. So, I'm re-recording this video. I reset my predictions, but these are our Week 7 NFL regular season predictions. Let's get into it. First of all, the Bills versus the Patriots. I'm a little bit iffy on the Bills at the moment. That game against the Giants was way too close for my liking, especially because they had their backup QB and their O-line has been so terrible. The Bills' offense really struggled against the Giants, and their defense isn't bad, but I don't know. This Bills team is so up and down this season. However, the Patriots are historically bad right now, so I think even if they're off their game, I still expect them to get a win here. Now the Browns, Deshaun Watson will not be playing next week. Just today came out, he said there is no timetable for his return, so they will be playing with their backup QB, who was good enough to get a win against the Niners last week. But the Colts also love their backup QB, Gardner Minshew, who threw multiple picks last week. You know, this feels like it could be 50-50, but that Browns defense these last couple weeks has been so good. They've taken a huge step forward. I think at this point they have a top 5 defense in the NFL, perhaps. Even if the offense isn't that great, but I think the Browns should win this year, but it will be close. Speaking of a close game, I think this game will probably be closer than some people think. The Chargers could have very easily beaten the Cowboys last week. There was a few dropped passes from receivers. Herbert threw the pick at literally the single worst time he could have in that the final 2 minutes of that game. They're only down 3 points. And the Chiefs' offense hasn't been as great as it has been the last couple seasons. You know, we haven't really seen that Mahomes magic yet this season. It is one thing, though, to say that they haven't needed that Mahomes magic to get their wins. I do think this game will be close, but I think the defense and the run game will tilt this in favor of the Chiefs. Let's go to our interconference games now. We have the Jaguars versus the Saints. The Saints have let me down a few times now. They're just so hot and cold. That offense, you'll all think that they finally have started to get things rolling on that offense, and then the next week they come out totally flat. So don't really know what's going on with them. Derek Carr is kind of disappointed me in their offense. I'm not gonna lie. And the Jaguars are kind of surging at the moment. They have a lot of confidence. I'm confident in that team, which I never thought I'd be saying about the Jaguars, but I'm going to give them the edge this week. Lions versus Ravens. I don't trust the Ravens offense right now. Their touchdown numbers aren't great. Their offensive numbers aren't great. Their defense is really good, but Jared Goff right now is playing like the best quarterback in the league. The Lions are rolling top 5 in offense and defense, and I think that'll just be too much for the Ravens to deal with. Speaking of backup QBs, the Bears, Justin Fields is sitting out playing against the Raiders, who have looked better than I expected them to this season. I think the Raiders get the nod here. Now this game for me is one I struggled with. This does feel very 50-50 in my opinion. The Steelers are coming off of a bye. They're hard for me to predict. The Steelers, it's hard for me to say exactly how good I think they are, but the Rams have Cooper Kupp back now. They have Puka Nacua is having a monster season. They got Aaron Donald, obviously. Stafford has looked good this this season. I still don't think the Rams are a playoff team, but I think they're better than people expected, better than I expected. I think they'll get the win here. And this here was another game I struggled with. I mulled this one over for a little while. Packers did not look great the week before last. Before their bye, Jordan Love had a really bad game. The Broncos are the Broncos. I don't have to explain that to you, but despite their losses, I think Russ has looked good. I think that even though this feels like a toss-up, I'm going to give the Broncos the edge. And for our last year in conference game, we have Dolphins versus Eagles. Jalen Hurts did not look good last week. He threw 3 picks, I'm pretty sure. And I've had concerns about that Eagles offense in general. The Dolphins are, the Dolphins are the Dolphins. That offense, best offense in the league. But I just have a feeling about this game. I'm not sure what the line is. I'm not sure who the fakest favorite is. I'm assuming Dolphins are the favorite here. But I just kind of have this feeling that at home the Eagles are going to pull this one out. I don't know what that. It's just a gut feeling that the Eagles are going to get the win here. I'm not sure why. Finally, for the NFC, Falcons versus Buccaneers, two teams that let me down last week when I bet on them. But ultimately, between the two of them, I think the Buccaneers have the better team. So I'm gonna go Bucks. Commanders versus Giants. Like I said, Giants really hung with the Bills last week right up until the final play of the game. They very easily could have won that game. Now they do have Tyrod Taylor in as their backup QB, but I honestly liked the way Tyrod was playing last week. He moves outside the pocket well. He scrambles well. He's a bit more mobile than Jones, I feel like. And he played. I've always liked Tyrod Taylor. But now, is that more of an indictment on the Bills or benefit to the Giants? I don't really know, but I just have a feeling I think the Giants will pull this one off. And as dysfunctional and unreliable as the Seahawks have been, pardon me, I hope that wasn't too loud. As unreliable as the Seahawks have been, especially their offense really has question marks for me. I think the defense is still good. I think we're going to cause a lot of issues for Dobbs on that side of the ball. My concern really at this point is DK Metcalf, which I never thought I'd be saying. I mean, I have the dude's jersey right here on the chair behind me, but I'm really concerned about him this season, his play, some of the things he's been saying, but ultimately I still feel like we should be good enough to beat this Cardinals team. And finally, this one. Now, this is the upset pick that I'm doing an upset pick here. Vikings over Niners, and I'll tell you why. The Vikings have a little bit of momentum right now with their wins, and the Niners, I'm assuming that McCaffrey, Debo, and Williams are all going to be out. I'm just making that assumption right now. If one of any three of those guys does end up playing next week, I think the Niners win. Only just one of those guys plays, I think they win. But I'm making this prediction with the assumption none of them will play next week. And once those guys were out last week, Purdy really looked different. He looked exposed. He looked, he didn't have his best weapons there, and he looked very uncomfortable without them on the field. They end up losing to the Browns. So, like I said, any of those guys play, I think they win, but I'm assuming they'll all be out. Even if it's not serious injuries, they'll at least miss this next week, in my opinion. Now on the bye, we have the Bengals, Texans, Titans, Jets, Panthers, and Cowboys, so a lot of teams on the bye. So unfortunately, a bit of a shorter video this week, but my final predictions: the AFC, I have the Bills beating the Patriots, the Browns beating the Colts, and the Chiefs beating the Chargers. For our interconference games, I have the Jaguars beating the Saints, the Lions beating the Ravens, the Raiders beating the Bears, the Rams beating the Steelers, the Broncos beating the Packers, and the Eagles upsetting the Dolphins. I assume an upset. And finally, the AFC, I have the Buccaneers being the Falcons, the Giants being the Commanders, the Seahawks being the Cardinals, and the Vikings upsetting the injured 49ers. So, those are my picks for this week. Sorry it's a bit of a shorter video, but not that many games on, with 6 teams on the bye. Kind of unfortunate. Tomorrow will be a longer video. If you liked it, please leave a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel for more content just like this almost every single day. Till next time, guys. Bye bye.